All right. So when I actually was a client when I was finishing, no, not when I was finishing, I did something like this as well. And now
Oh, did you?
Yep. I got invited into this room, into the podcast room, and I had to speak about my journey. And now, well, I'm doing it with you.
How
My
the
lovely Xantre.
turntables.
Alrighty, let's jump into it. We've been together. How long have we been together for?
I want to say since July. July is when we
July
met.
31st.
We're so romantic.
I know. It's our anniversary.
Happy
All
Annie
right.
to us.
I know. I was reading through your original preference form actually today.
What
I
does it
just wanted to
say?
know exactly what you wrote for your first goal. Do you know what you put down as your initial goals?
I think I remember saying that like wanting to feel strong, I want to say. And I think I don't know if confidence was in there. And I think maybe support, but that came in later. That came like much later. I had my own little realization that I'm like, oh, maybe it'd be good to like get some general support during this journey because I never asked for help.
No, that was a big realization. I remember when we first had our initial consult and you came across as this, I mean, you still are, but you were very confident, knowing exactly what you want. And then you're like, I don't ask for help much. And I was like, everybody needs a little bit of help. And you're like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, I'm the friend that does it, which then is such a big realization. You're actually so much stronger when you realize that everyone needs help.
Yeah. And it's also too just like being you kind of need to realize that you're not superhuman, and it's not until you kind of crash and burn when you're like, oh, I'm actually like human like everybody else, and it's impossible to not ask for help because then
Yeah,
then you'll crash.
100%. And you didn't crash and burn, but you got to the point where you're like, Mama needs some help.
Yes, and also just like being like there's nothing like what like unpacking why I feel such a way about asking for some help. Like
Mm.
it's and then unpacking that is a realization in itself of just like actually like I don't have to know everything, and I don't know everything. So what's the difference with this? Just getting a bit of extra help and support and direction, because it's like you're not making any progress by pretending like you know it all. So you might as well go to someone or find some support or just be given the tools to so you can get some help. Really,
Uh,
that's all it is.
yeah, 100%. And, you came to Lionstone to me wanting some support. However, I remember you said one comment, and it was basically that, you had this fixed mentality that you had to tick off everything in the box.
Oh, still a bit like that, but like, we're
But
working on it.
we're working on it. And I've said to you in the past that it's not about ticking off all the boxes. Sometimes it's just changing what the boxes look like.
Mhm.
And then when we were discussing that, you were sort of like, I feel like I need to apply this to other areas.
Yes. I think like one thing since we've been together for the past 6 or 7 months is when I think the biggest realization has been that you really don't know yourself until you put your routine on paper a lot of the time. And so it started as something as little as just being like, I thought I was having breakfast most days. Turns out I wasn't. Turns out like I actually wasn't really fulfilling myself most days. But then you actually see what your habits are and how often you follow them, and the habits that you think you have versus the habits you actually implement. Uh, it really starts this like chain reaction of where does everything stem from? Why do I do this? And it puts like a bit of like a spotlight on your own behavior, where you then have to be like, is this healthy? Is this something that I want to do? Is this sustainable? And it's really just filtered into every part of my life, where it's like I can get to the gym, but am I sleeping well? No. It's like, am I being kind to myself when I'm resting? No, I'm not. And then also it's like, why am I got such low energy by 11 a.m.? It's like because I'm not eating breakfast most mornings. Coffee is not breakfast. And so it just starts this like ball roll of just like, okay, we are now undoing everything we thought we knew about ourselves. That's fun. It is fun, but it's also incredibly confronting as well.
Definitely. And I think when you have to start reflecting, you have to start becoming aware of what you're doing to make changes.
Mm.
but it's not always right there in your face. It's sort of those little things. It's like, oh, I thought I would have always said to someone, no, I eat my brekkie. But if it's only 2 days of the week, that's not many days in a year that you're getting your brekkie in.
No, totally not. And also it's just not sustainable long term, especially if you have a busy schedule. And also just how much your mental load goes into thinking about fueling yourself too. And then that opens up like a wider conversation of being like, I need to actually allocate time to prepare for the week, whether it's like food and looking at my schedule. And I'm like, I'm not 18 or 19 or 17 anymore where I can just wing my life. It's like, oh, this adult is adulting. We're adulting in this house.
In this household?
Yes. Is the adult in the room with us? We don't know.
You know, when I was like younger, my parents would be like, oh, I'm just sick of deciding what we're going to have for dinner. And I used to think, what do you mean? You get to just choose what you get to have for dinner. And then when you become an adult and you realize it's not a novelty, it's something that you need to pre-plan in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I have forgotten what foods are.
Yeah.
But we often talk about the way you set up yourself up for success is when you've got your macros planned for the following week and you've got your schedule mapped out with, I love your little Excels.
I love an Excel spreadsheet. I don't always follow it. I sometimes don't really know what's going on, but at least it's like it gives me a little bit of structure into a week that quite often fluctuates. Like I'm a very spontaneous person, so I like to say yes to things, but also to it's kind of like towing that middle ground of like it not getting to the point where I'm compromising on the things that are important to me long term. And sometimes that is saying no to things, and sometimes that is reeling it in. But also to reeling it in is important, so I'm not edging into like not self-destruction, but being overindulgent, because it's just balance. Just want to be balanced.
It's balance. Now, back to your preference form. Your 3 goals were lose weight, become leaner, and stay strong.
Oh, well, those are my goals. Okay, well.
I love it. It said stay strong.
Mm.
You were like, I'm already a strong queen.
I think it was just
You're definitely a lot stronger though.
Yeah, I am. And then I was actually doing rounded back extensions in the gym yesterday, and I'm just like looking at the weight you asked me to put it up to, and I'm just like, okay, I'll do it. And then on my last set, I'm like, I'm gonna kill her. I'm like, I'm gonna kill her. But she's right though. It's just like it's also that mental thing where it's a comfortability, like in where you think that you're like, I'm strong, but only to like this far, and you wouldn't dare kind of like push. That's where the support is, or where like the push, the encouragement comes from, where you're just like, that's what I needed. I needed somebody to just be like, just try it this way and just see how you go. It was never like, I know you can do this, but it was never like, I know you can do this, so therefore you should always do it. It's just like, why don't you just try? And then let me know how you go. And then every single time I try, I'm just like,
damn that bitch.
Damn that bitch.
Now, you've definitely gotten stronger. I've seen it. Your squat form is looking great. Now, we had a little bit of an issue with your back and, lungs, ribs. Just in the back area. Yeah. So we started to focus more on tempo, but your strength, you're applying that tempo and your strength is already there up prior to this. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to keep excelling. You've become leaner and you've also lost weight. So do you know what you weighed in, you filled out on your preference form when you first signed up?
I think I was like 97. I want to say, I think I was 97. I remember floating around there, and I had been there for the longest time. I had been there, but I was still training, but it was making progress, but also to changing the way I thought I saw progress. Anyways, that's a tangent. But yes, I was 97 or 98.
97, yeah. And then I remember you said we were getting close to because we're a couple.
Yeah, amen.
We were getting close to being under 90, and you're like, it's never been an actual goal. Like, I didn't think that would be a goal that I wanted to push. And then you smashed that. How did that feel?
It's funny because I was like, you always have an idea of how you think it would look like when you reach that goal, because it's always just somewhere that's in the future for such a long period of time. And then you get there, and it was like all right, yeah, I can do it. Like, it felt great, but also it was just like, well, almost like that wasn't easy, but keep going. Like it was just like more motivation and to nice. It's always like a good reflection to see your hard work pay off, even if I wasn't like I'm glad that I'm not somebody who's super focused on the scales as well. But it's just a good indication to see where I'm tracking and where the progress is going. Because if you look at yourself every day, you don't actually see you don't
Yeah.
see it as much as somebody else could see it. So actually seeing that reflected back to me was like very validating to know that what I was working towards was going somewhere. And not that I really have an idea of where I go, because I'm actually like, I believe in the journey, not the destination.
That's what we're all about. That's what
Yeah,
we're all
the
about.
journey, destination, go find myself. But it's good to know that like at least I know where I'm heading. It's in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Talk to me, or tell the listeners.
Yeah.
There, you went to two weddings. No, you went to a wedding, but before that, I think you had a red carpet event,
Oh yes.
and you wore the dress. You
Yes.
know what dress I'm talking about. Now,
Yes.
the first time you wore that dress, do you remember what you said to me?
I have no idea. I don't
Oh,
remember.
you were like, I feel great. I feel really like you felt amazing. And you're like,
Okay.
you were out in front of people and you felt real confident, you and genuinely confident. Then you wore that dress again a little bit later and you look like two different people.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dress fit very differently. And I was like, all right, what's going on?
I know when I get to compare the pair.
Compared to the same age, same
So
income, same copyright infringement because we
yeah, I
can't
know.
say
I was like, am
the
I allowed to do this? And you were just glowing in both though. That's what I loved was you were getting even more confident, but you continuously worked not only on your physical self, but mental as well.
Mm, yes, I think like again going back to like when you have to look at yourself and your routines is even though it can be confronting and you're like going through and you're combing through your food routines and your sleep routines and just like how often you spend time to just mentally decompress and even just going to the gym is that it's very I want to say empowering in a way to get a grasp on that because you don't I didn't realize I didn't have that much of like a grasp on it before. Like I thought like I knew what I was doing, which I did, but just having it more structured and be able to like see where everything stems from. Um,
Train with
definitely.
intensity.
Yeah. And train with intention as
Yeah.
well. Train with intention. But I think that definitely contributed to just overall feeling more confident because yes, it was like how I physically felt in the dress and feel like you could just I don't not it move with ease. Like there was a certain amount of like lightness of just like I feel good. Like I feel nice. I felt good before, but like there's something different about this. And it was just like the the growth from the non-physical sense as well.
Yeah. And Pat and I actually spoke about this in a recent podcast. I'm not sure if it's out. But we were talking about it's not about even if I'm looking real fit, and same with Pat, even if we're still looking the same. If we start neglecting training, our eating, or our sleeping, you automatically look at yourself in a different light.
Mm,
Physically, your body's not changed, but you don't feel like you've got that inner glow. You don't feel as confident because deep down, you know you're not looking after your body.
mm,
Whereas, say you're eating well, you're training well, you're sleeping well, regardless of the body, if you're making those positive, contributions to your health, you automatically start feeling better, looking better. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah. I don't think it's just like you see yourself. You like that's why sometimes you can wake up and just feel great if you've been like on weeks where I'm like I've smashed my training, I smashed my macros. I'm just like I can lift a car. Like
I'm
no,
a
I
bad
can't.
bitch.
Yeah, like I'm just like I feel like a bit of a baddie. And then other times where you just feel like you've just been all over the place. You don't feel 100%, but um yeah, but it is what it is. Sometimes it happens, and I to segue into where I used to be as well is that if I used to kind of have those weeks where I didn't feel like I followed my plan or my macros or I would completely not fall off the wagon, but it would take a lot of time for me to kind of dust myself off and be like, let's go do this again. Like, today's another day, this week's another week. Whereas on like a, I guess, more structured plan and having someone like you to support me and to have a training program and someone who's doing like very healthy and like mindful check-ins, it's just like I can dust myself back off and it won't keep me down for as long as it used to. Like I was like, I know how to get back on this horse. Like, life happens, shit happens, but I know where to walk back to. Like I know the path that I need to go back on
Yeah.
in order to make me feel better. And yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it's been so lovely to witness. And if you don't mind us speaking about, do you want to explain some obstacles or some challenges you sort of had with maybe your food initially?
Oh, yes.
Are you happy talking about that?
Yeah.
All right, tell us
I,
about it.
I think like food's always been quite an interesting I've always had an interesting relationship with food because I think I grew up not really having that well-rounded nutritional info around food, and I was a bit of a late bloomer with learning how to cook, so it's been like quite a slow process. But I think in terms of like meal plan, um, I you have like an idea of what a meal plan is and what structuring your food and your meal plan is. And I think I was still very much sitting in like the whole, like, it's restrictive. I can't indulge. I can't eat sugar. I don't know, binge out or anything. I still have like quite negative associations around food and thinking that if I eat something naughty, therefore I am naughty. So I remember one of the big challenges that we had, and you probably remember this too, was when I was just like, I had a week. It was just like a week where the week was waking and work was out the window. I wasn't getting good sleep. And I was just like, I just want a burger. And so I remember just like probably engaging in some like former habits that I had that kind of reminded me of when I had I used to just eat like that all the time. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that. It's always just like sometimes when you don't feel like you're eating in like the right place, or I just had a moment where I just like binged. I just like binged had a meal and I didn't feel that well afterwards, but it wasn't just like because I ate too fast. It was just took me back to a place where I wasn't very happy with engaging in those food habits. And I remember the way that I felt was just like, oh, I've undone all the process that I've had. Do you remember that as well?
Yep, I remember because you meant to go out for, I'm not a creep, but I remember everything.
Yeah.
You meant to go out with a friend and they cancelled, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes, I do
Or
remember
they
this.
had something on and you were like, I'm still going to have a burger.
Yeah. And I was like, I want a burger and I'm going to go eat a burger. But it was just, I think it was just re-engaging in like a habit of just like not having, it was like I want to say domino effect where I used to be somebody who would like, I wouldn't really cook for myself. And then I would just go out and get something to eat on the way home. And sometimes it's like, that's just the way some things have to be. But doing that and just like, not just like it's something that just like triggered me like with just
remember,
yeah. And I remember just saying to you that I actually wasn't going to tell you that that happened because
I was so happy you told me.
I was so happy I did as well. But I remember it just like sparked this like sense of shame that I engaged in doing that, and realizing like, why do I feel shameful, and like, why can I not tell my trainer this? Is she going to think anything less of me? But I remember just like saying it to you and you had like the most incredible response of just being like, I just remember just feeling really supported and very like not misunderstood and not being met with like
there was no judgment.
Yeah, no, there was no judgment. And you're just like, it is what it is. And then it's like, let's work through this together. And that was just something that was such a healthy,
do you remember what your
thing
homework was?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
It was because you were like, well, I wanted to break that it was a naughty habit.
Yes,
so I said that you were going to start going out for dinner, and that could mean by yourself. Because you did it by yourself in sort of shame. And I've done it before. I've gone on the way home from like a place and back in the older days and just gotten like a burger in the car and be like, I'm going to eat this in shame. So I said, I wanted you to, we're going to start planning times where you go out and you have those foods and we just don't make it shameful. And it's not. But it's when you're in that position and you start connecting it to past experiences, the biggest thing was the amount of growth that you had that you had told me. And I remember getting the voice note and it was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I was like, it's done. And you were like, oh, that was a very nice reaction.
I think you said, I don't remember if I made this up, but I'm pretty sure you said being like, hope the burger was nice.
I literally, I think I did say that. I was like, hope it was nice. Where'd you get it from or something?
Because I thought you were like, I honestly like just had this mindset where just because I've been in like a self-punishing cycle with myself, that I probably just expected that response from like you or other people,
Yeah,
even though you're just not that person. But it's just like, well, it was almost like that's the way I deserve to be treated after
that's your
I,
perception of yourself.
yeah. And so it was just like this, whoa. And then just to be met with the, hope the burger was delicious. I was like, well, it was, and I don't regret it. I just like just feel this sense of ugh. And you're just like, no, like let's work through this and let's like undo the feelings of shame, because there's nothing wrong with eating. It's
Yeah,
just like, and that was like again going to the whole like it, yes, on a meal plan, on a training plan, but then you're looking at your routines and you're looking at yourself and you're just like looking at your routines and behaviors and realizing that it's just like, oh, I need to be kinder to myself as well
yeah,
because I'm human.
yeah. And that's the thing I think we've worked on the most is, as I said before, you're very much you just want everything. You just want to do everything. You want to tick off all the boxes. And that could mean, I remember you said to me, we went from 3-day program to 4-day program.
You're gonna go for the jugular right now.
Go for the jugular. All right. Now, and the reason why I wanted to do this is because I think I knew most of the time you couldn't actually do a 4-day, but I knew you could commit sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had the opportunity to have it, get you in the 4th session, then that was amazing. And if you didn't, it would also secretly work on your ability to have to accept that you couldn't tick it all off.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go?
That was actually such, I think there's been many light bulb moments, like the burger, like with the food, was like a really big light bulb moment. I'm just being, I need to be kind to myself. I need to undo like the naughty behaviors. This one was entirely different because it was like actually a commentary of me in life in general. Because I remember saying to you, being like, I need, Nicole, dull. Can you please drop my training down to 4 days a week? And you just asked me a simple question. You're like, can I know why? And I'm like, because I was like, oh, because I don't think I can achieve it every week. And like you said, you knew that I couldn't achieve it every week. You're like, it's just there as a just in case. And then that's such a reasonable response. And I was like, but I can't do it every week. You're like, yeah, that's the point. Like you'd like, it's just in case you need it. And I'm like, but and I'm like, but I need to be able to tick it off. And you're like, but you don't need to actually tick it off every week. And so it was just this realization of that, oh, I do everything in extremes, which I knew about myself. I've always known about myself where it's just like, it's all or nothing. It's 0 to 100. It like that whole habit in me has existed always in like my training, at work, with anything really, where it's just like, I'm either all in or I'm nothing at all. And the idea that I can't engage in something unless I do it all perfectly is not sustainable. And I think it was just that realization of like, oh, like I can't expect this of myself every week because I'm imperfect and I'm human and life happens, shit happens, and you're not going to do everything at 100%. And even like when I first started training, I remember like before I started, like when I was doing training off, like before I started training with you, I would completely write off training during my period. Training during my period, which I did because like sometimes I would just have like a painful period, but I'm like lucky like that I can still do some movements and I'm not completely docile. And I like to actually move when I'm like on my period as well. But I remember you saying to me, oh, like could you try just lowering the weight at the gym and seeing how you go? All the advice you ever given me has been just see how you go. Why don't you just try? And then I'm like, well, okay, well, that seems reasonable. So I'll just try. And it turns out I can do it. And I don't have to do it at an extreme in order for it to be good movement or for it to be like a good training session. Not every training session is going to be perfect. It's not going to be the time I lift my heaviest, but just moving and just trying is actually what got me into like a healthier mindset, undoing this sense of like extremism in everything that I do. Yeah,
I know.
that's my
I love
tangent.
that. I remember the time that you're at the gym and you were like, there was one busy. I mean, you've had many busy weeks at work, but it was one busy week. I think you'd had like a few late nights, and then you had a really bad period. And you were like, I'm not making excuses, but I think I need to have a rest today and then I'll see how I go tomorrow. And I was like, oh, you don't need to explain it to me. I've probably already told you need a rest this week. And Xantre's she's not the type of person, you're not the type of person to make excuses. Not at all. You will beat yourself up rather than make an excuse. And then the next day you were like, I don't know if you had the day off. I cannot remember exactly, but you felt better and you're like, I'm going to go train because I want to train. And you just took it easy. Like, I'm not going to try anything hard, but I'm going to just take it easy. But it went from you went because you wanted to go rather than you also took the day off the day before because you were exhausted. Your period was bad. Achievement.
Mm-hmm.
But then also going the next day, not being like, oh, it's my period week, it's a write-off. We were like, all right, I rested yesterday, I'm going to go today. But there was no pressure. And I was like, I tried to practice at home the heart.
Oh my god. It still looks like a hole. It looks like you're flipping.
Trying to teach me how to do hearts, but it just doesn't look good.
It's not working. Oh, we'll work on it.
Which I absolutely loved. And I feel like, your food has come so far. You did get down to, I can't do maths very quickly. It's about 15 kilos.
Yeah.
And we've never been focused on the scales. You went away to Japan for 3 weeks.
Yes, 3 weeks. Don't make me talk about it. I will not shut up.
And we've been getting into the swing of things back since then. But the fact that the food freedom that you had when you were away, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think like it was the sense that I could just enjoy myself when I was over there, because I've been on trips like overseas before where I've been so hyper conscious about what I've eaten to the point where sometimes I would just kind of avoid enjoying things at times. But this, like, look, I won't lie, like I went a bit feral in Japan in like the best way with food. But I remember you saying to me being like, here is like, if you would like some advice of like, if you want to roughly follow your macros, and you sent me this very helpful guide of like, in terms of like protein, carbs, fats, and you can measure it by your hand. And it was like, if you want to do that, but your advice to me was just like, go and enjoy yourself. And I think it was just like a nice payoff for me for all the hard work that I did leading up to the end of the year, because with training. And it was good to just be able to not think about food.
Yeah.
Not ironically, but I spent so much time obviously focusing on what I was eating and doing meal plans that I could have that freedom in Japan, and or while I'm on holidays, and feel also confident, but also really enjoy myself with what I would eat. And if I felt like maybe reeling it in at some times and being a bit more hyper conscious, I had like a tool which was super simple to just follow it. But like I think just the freedom of enjoying myself with food was like the major thing.
And there's only, when you go back, like 400 grams difference.
Was there?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So you went away, 400 grams difference between when you left and you came back. From New Year's to you came back.
Oh, I had no idea. Wow. Yay.
Which, like, it's, we're not focused on the scales, but that shows that regardless of you, following the exact plan, that you're starting to, know to fuel your body, enjoy foods. And there's going to be times where we, overindulge. Mm-hmm. And that can be, Taylor Swift concert. That could be, a specific thing where you want to overindulge. Weight might jump up 1 to 2 kilos, and it's normally just fluid retention. But it's going back. It's not going back to those bad habits where, like we've been speaking the last few weeks, I kind of left you a question being like, do you want to reel it in? Because you said, I want to reel it in a few times. And I said, all right, let's go strict for the next few weeks, get you back ball rolling, or we can do, still a little bit more social on the weekends. Results will be a bit slower. Mm-hmm. And you've decided.
I want to reel it in.
Reel it in.
I want to reel it in. I know what that involves. I know what that involves of reeling it in. But like, it's good. Like it was good for me. Like when I came back from Japan, I was really craving routine. I think naturally when you kind of get to that point of the trip where you're just like, I just want broccoli because you've eaten everything in like the best way. But the reeling it in is more because I know the version of myself that I feel good in is when when I felt the strongest and the most confident is when I was following a routine. But I think I've like reached that point where I can follow my macros and my training program and know how to structure my week and allow for a bit of flexibility and also adjust my flexibility around my routine as well. Uh, and not feel bad about being much more flexible, but just being more mindful about the fact that like I've set this goal for myself to be much more committed to the plan since coming back from overseas for the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks.
And
And I think
sometimes you
that's,
just need a break.
yeah. So sometimes you just need a break and you just need to, let your hair down,
Yeah.
let your hair down a little bit, but also knowing that I can always come back to center and be able to follow a routine has been very, very, very nice.
Very nice. And another thing I want to talk about is I know we're going back into sort of realizations, but we've sort of had chats before in the past where about setting boundaries, and I think when you put everything on paper and you start making these realizations, they do flood into other areas, and you start asking. I know I'm going back to it, but you start asking help at work and start sort of standing up for yourself in other areas rather than you're your number one supporter. You support yourself by going to the gym, eating well, socializing, all of those things, but it's been nice to witness you standing up for yourself in other than fitness areas, your friendships, your work, which just shows such a bigger growth in confidence.
Yeah. I think also just like feeling much more or stepping into like growing into more of the version that I feel like I am. Because for such a long time, I've always, I think you would relate to this, hopefully you will, that you always have felt like yourself, but you're kind of like, as you go through like your journey or like your fitness journey, or when you've lost a lot of weight, you kind of are just growing into the person that you always knew that you could be. And it's just like discovering who you are and what your boundaries are, and especially what your boundaries are within the version that you want to be as well, and just growing to be a better person. And also I think a big thing has been advocating for myself, and learning how that it's okay to advocate for myself and my feelings and my boundaries and what makes me happy, what makes me upset. And like verbalizing that has really been a really big thing for me, because I think that really taps into the whole not asking for help. And that, just like how that had filtered in other parts of my life, like the pendulum can swing the other way. But being like, no, I think like doing this or setting up a routine and like putting myself first, I think is not selfish to do.
Right.
And it's felt really good being able to apply like some things that I've put in my routine into just other parts of my life. Yes. And I think
100%.
it's been just like advocating for myself, or advocating for the fact of just like, no, that actually didn't feel really good. Actually, I am going to say something. And yes, it's been nice.
I've loved it. And I remember because you were just very like closed doors. You'd like share lots with me, but anything that was sort of sad emotion, it was, we don't talk about that. We wouldn't even bring it up. And then you slowly started opening the door a little bit. You're like, now I'm not someone that sort of expresses this to people. And I'm like, am I evil? But I'm so sad. I'm so excited that you're telling me you're sad or stressed about something, because it's obviously don't want you to have those negative feelings, but it's human. And it was nice that you were opening the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It means if you open it to me, eventually it's going to start spilling out. And that's what's needed. I feel like you become a better person, you become a better friend, you become a better family. Like you just become, by allowing others to see your emotion, it allows them to connect with you on a different level.
Yeah.
But also when you start advocating for, what's right and wrong for how you feel, that's also a different step. That's you respect yourself even more to be able to do those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think like we're just speaking on like, when I started being like, I think I'm a bit sad today, or I think I'm a bit tired today, is that because like I wouldn't even tell people that I was tired sometimes. Like I'll tell people I'm tired, and then some people who know me quite well would just be like, I think you are tired. And I'd be like, no, no. But I think that just verbalizing the fact that like I'm sad is just acknowledgement that it's happening, because otherwise I'm a big believer in that if you don't acknowledge that it's happening, or in some way, even if you don't say it to yourself and you keep pushing it down, it will manifest itself in a different way, sometimes in a more self-destructive way. Because I remember one time I had like a bad period, and this is like years ago, but I had like a bad period. I didn't acknowledge it was a bad period. It ended up with me like actually acknowledging that I have anxiety for the first time in my life. And I'm like, when I was like on the floor having a hyperventilating on the floor. And I remember exactly where it started. It was me not acknowledging that I'm tired and I have a bad period. And I could see that pipeline. So I know how important it is now to just verbalize that, like, if I'm feeling like shit, it's okay. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me and also I think I had this warped perception that I don't want to be perceived as weak, but it's like but if people actually know me, which like they do, like my friends and like my family who know me quite well, if I say to them that I'm struggling, of course they're not going to be like of course they're not going to be like, you weak, you little weakling, oh my gosh, you're not this perfect person that we expect you to be. Because then it's just like, hang on a second, they never expected that of me. That is just the way that's the pressure I put on myself. No one's actually pressuring me to be that person. So I think just verbalizing things are happening. And I think as well, this is like a tangent, but I've thought about this a lot recently, where because like you and I in this relationship, in this dynamic, in this partnership that we have, is having somebody who actively checks in on you all the time, in like a healthy way, to be like, how are you doing? Is that it doesn't force me to do it, but I think it just naturally evolves into a relationship where you're like, I can't be honest about my progress about this journey unless I'm honest about other things that are happening in my life. So I think the space that you've provided to be able to have that safe zone, to be able to have those to have the conversations. Yes, to have those conversations. And like also like not like I think this is expectation where you're like, she'll tell me when she's ready, but I'll give her the space to do it. And I think that's so important, especially when you're like helping me unpack a lot of things that are outside the routine, outside food and outside like training. And then I'm just like, oh, this is happening in my life and it's affecting my training. And it's just a conversation where you never thought you'd actually have it with a trainer, but that's what creates like a safe space. And also it makes me want to make you proud as well, to be like, I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna cry. I'm like, you're like my sister, but I'm like your mom. I'm like, I'm so proud of
mom.
you. Mom.
Hey, mom.
No, I'm your biggest advocate. And, you know, so many of us, move the microphone thing, I always do this. So many of us go through such similar things, but you feel ultimately that you're like the only one that's running this battle. And you know, the fact that I could offer you that safe space and start saying, hey, look, I actually, you know, I'm tired. I need a little bit of help. That's a huge thing. Like that's the biggest achievement ever. When you started saying that you needed help with things and that you know, wanted to, or you were ready to put some more boundaries in your life, that was signifying to me that, you know, you understood that it was okay not to tick off all those boxes.
Yeah. And then
that's just the most beautiful thing.
framing this.
Oh, I've absolutely loved it so much. But we're not going to stop now. We're going to smash some goals.
Yes, we're going to smash some goals. I set on my Excel spreadsheet. I set my 3-month goal, which, funnily enough, can we talk about is that I remember when I was doing like, there's a 6-month goal, which I think is it, like, again, like not focusing on the scales, but it's like a number, because I know that it's like if I keep working towards that overall like talks about the plan and like the longevity that I want out of this. But the 3-month goal, I remember I really struggled to be like, I don't know what my physique goal is, because I'm like, I feel as though progressive overload, I'm getting stronger, because I know that I'm going to keep doing it and you're going to keep forcing me to do it in a good way. You can be like, you're lifting too light, girly. You can lift heavier than that. I'm like, no, because that's sore. And then I do it anyway. But I think big one, which it's a whip, it's a work in progress, is sleep. So I think being able to actually set goals that are not like physique related, but it is physique adjacent, because you can't train unless you sleep well,
Yep.
or you can't recover unless you sleep well. And I'm not a good sleeper. I've never been a really good sleeper in terms of like I can function, like I'm like "Ugh," like at all hours, but it's more like my brain's always wired, but my body can always catch up
We
later
need
if
to
it.
calm that nervous system.
Yeah. So my 3 month goal is to get 7 hours of sleep per night, which sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't, but I am like determined because I know that will just complement everything else that's happening. And I'll feel a lot better. I'll be much more alert. I'll train better and I'll do better at work. And I'm sure I'll be less, I don't know, less wired sometimes.
You'll just have a bit more emotional regulation. Your cortisol won't be through the roof. I was actually looking at your old. You know what sleep you had in the first week we're together?
Yes, I do, because I remember that.
I was like, what?
It was in the reds. I remember typing this down, and this was actually the first realization where, like, oh, we're going to get really close during this.
Real quick.
We're going to get really close real quick, and I'm also going to find out a lot of things about myself. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I put down I had like 3 hours sleep one night. Yep, I remember.
Yep. There was a 4. There was in the first 2 weeks. I think there was a 3. There's lots of 6s, a 5. Your energy was like 3, 6, 7, 2 in the first week.
Mhm.
Then we kind of had ups and downs quite a bit here and there, but lots of 5s.
Oh, wow.
Lots of 5s.
Sounds about right.
And I remember being like, girl, we need to work on that. And you were sort of like, this is how I've always been.
I
I was
was
like, okay.
yeah, no, and then I was just kind of like, I'm asleep. Like, shouldn't you worry about my training? I was like, why is this important? Because I remember looking at all of this being like, it's a lot of data, and I work in data, so I'm like, it's a lot of data. But then I was like, oh, I get it.
I don't think
get
there
it.
was a week that you didn't have a 5-hour sleep, to be honest. When we, in our first 8 weeks,
Oh, wow.
let's go into, I'm just going to pull it up right now. I had just your file up here for a second. I'm
Mm.
going to look at it.
Oh,
of
no,
course you're
not the
taking-
receipts. She's taken out the receipts. This is
Finding the file, flicking through. Alrighty. So, all right. So in the first 8 weeks, you had 5, a 4, a 3 in the first 8 weeks, but every week you had at least 1 5. So this week, in the last 7 days, you only had 1 5 hours.
Yes, and also to be fair,
No, you've been at Taylor Swift, and
yeah,
you've had
I went to Taylor Swift. So
let's not count this week because we've had you came to Melbourne for a little bit. Alrighty, so averaged more about 7 last week. 7, 8, 7, 7, 6, 7, 5. You also had something on that weekend, I think.
Yes, probably. Also, I
But
will
you
just
were
call
doing
out.
5 hours midweek. That's the thing that I'm telling you about. You had
Yeah.
like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or a Monday. It was the 5 hours, which consistently you've not had any of that for. And then the last time. So in this data that we've got, we took off that little time when you were away. You've only had 2 days of 5 hours.
Which is actually really huge for me because
Since
I don't think
January.
I don't think I've typed in 5 hours in a long time. And I think like, I know it's just 1 hour, but the fact that I'm getting to sixes, I haven't been in like sixes or sevens in, I want to say years.
But
Like
you're
actually
consistently more 7s than 6s. Other than the last week, I mean, you went to Taylor Swift, it's been crazy. But like last week you had 1, 2, 3, 4 nights of 7 hours.
That's great. I love that for me.
So we get in there and, you know, compared to having 5 hours every week, and then I'm saying that there's some weeks that there was 2 lots of 5 hours. 1, 2. There was 1 week you had 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 6, 7. So overall, there's a huge improvement. So we're going to just smash that 3-month goal.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. It's on the podcast now, so I have to do it.
I got a question for you before we
Yes.
sort of wrap up. I mean,
Yes.
we could keep talking forever, but we've been going for a little bit.
Mhm.
What would you... What would you give advice to someone who was going to start off?
Oh, this is a loaded question. Can I tap into
You can
where I used to be?
you
Like,
can talk. You can go anywhere. This is your
okay,
show.
this is my show. Um, so before, because I we've spoken about this, but I used to probably because I have PCOS. We like
Oh yeah, I don't think we've mentioned this. Picas Galley.
yeah, PCOS girly. I got diagnosed when I was
Actually, let's talk
20.
about that too afterwards.
Yeah,
Sorry, one more thing.
yes, all good. I got diagnosed when I was 22, and then I think so much about starting for me was that I was in a place for a really long time where like I wasn't managing my PCOS symptoms, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, very well. Whereas like I took a long time to get diagnosed. I also was working like 10, 12 hours a day when like one of my first jobs when I was really young. And I just didn't prioritize or actually didn't really have time to prioritize my health. And that was eating and exercising. And I think I got at my heaviest at one point in like 2017, 2018. I was like 100, I want to say pushing 130 kilos, like probably pushing 130 kilos. And I remember just like, not feeling great, low energies, and like confidence, like not great either. And I remember just being like, I don't want to feel like this. I want to be able to live my life in my 20s. Like, and I just want to feel good. It straight away was like, I need to just get moving. And I grew up as a dancer. So it's like, what's something that I like doing? I don't want to go running. Like, I don't think that's feasible for a lot of people who are just like, they think they can jump into, if you want to, you can jump into extreme like diet and exercising if you want to, but that's just not sustainable for me. So my advice is doing something that you love doing. I started doing dance classes because again, I grew up as a dancer because I didn't feel like cardio. Was I out of breath? Yeah, of course I was. I was out of breath. But just doing that consistently, like once every fortnight and turned into once every week, just, I guess, reignited my appreciation and love for exercise again. Just going for walks, like very small steps to just get the ball rolling because you won't know what you love doing unless you try doing something. Like, like nothing is nothing. Something can be more. Like
Yeah, I
something
love
can,
that.
yeah, something can be more. And so I went from dancing to dancing like every week. Then I ended up like joining a gym. I couldn't run because my joints were a bit cooked.
And
Because
when you can't run, I got told I wasn't allowed to run when I was 40 kilos heavier
yeah.
because it's a lot of what people don't get what it does to your joints when you are carrying additional weight. People like just go for a run. It's like I'm doing more damage to my joints than it's worth it.
And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I also get winded, like going up the stairs. And so I was just like, why don't I try swimming? I used to grow up as a swimmer. Did I swim fast? No. Could I paddle? Sure. And then the swimming turned into doing it a couple of days a week, grew my confidence to start going into the gym. Did I know what I was doing at the gym? No. But was I walking maybe a kilometer or two more on the treadmill every day? Sometimes I just go into the treadmill and then go home. And that all stemmed from the fact that I just wanted to get my body moving again. And it was so small, but like getting to where I am now, I can see just like it makes me like emotional just thinking about it because that was 6 years ago. Like thinking about being like, who would have thought that girl can be like hip thrusting 110 kilos
You're
now?
gonna make me
Who
cry. Oh, sorry, I'm laughing when I'm nervous because I'm gonna cry. This is so beautiful.
but it's true because it's just I think also too just realizing that it's just like you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve in the time you think you're going to achieve it because I think it's just like we're so hard on ourselves. There's so much pressure, and you might as well just be kind to yourself because that's what you just might as well make the progress to do it. Like it's just like,
Mm.
yeah. And I'm glad that I just knew that like at least I'm moving forward. At least there's some kind of progress. And that even like came into like I used to eat out, do takeout all the time. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna learn how to cook. And I was like, cool. And then just one meal a week turned into 2 meals a week. And then realizing that, hang on a second, I actually really enjoy cooking. Can I cook something elaborate? Probably not. Like I'm not Donna Hay. That's not going to happen. But I can at least cook something that is in something that I enjoy doing. And
Mm.
then now I cook for myself all the time more than I eat out. And I look takes a while. Everyone's journey is different. 6 year journey for me to get to where I am now.
But
But I'm just like,
you started, 130 kilos, not cooking for yourself, and I think what you said is perfect. It's you need to sort of run before you walk before you can walk before you run. And so many people, I think, if they can't do everything all at once, it's no point. And I get a lot of questions, you know, from people from the internet and whatnot, and like, how long has this, you know, how long did your journey take? Oh, that's going to take too long. You're going to go through that time regardless. So you can either, you know, in 6 years' time, make no changes, be in the same position, or you can make small changes to your life and that time's still going to pass. I think people get really caught up being, oh, it's going to take too long. You're going to live that life anyway. That time's still going to happen. Might as well actively try and make it better in some way, shape or form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about your PCOS. So
yes.
Would you want to share the exciting news?
Okay, yeah, I can. I'm sorry, I forgot what the exciting news was. I was like, what is it?
I think it's amazing. So, little rundown. So, Xantre has PCOS, and we had her on relatively lower carbs than a person without PCOS. And now you still were eating carbs, just not as much, you know, as someone without PCOS. Now we're introducing carbs almost weekly. Going up. And why is that?
So I have to get my blood taken like yearly. And then for reference, for the people at home, for reference, is that I think like a normal insulin level is like, I think it sits around like 20 or 10. I'm not sure. At one point when I was like undiagnosed, I was probably sitting at like, I remember the doctor, it was like 80. It was like 80, which is crazy on the scales to think about because I've got insulin resistance in PCOS. And if I remember the doctor saying to me, it's like, you keep going like this, and you don't regulate or put your hormones level, then or don't manage this, you can risk being pre-diabetic. And I was like, not a sleigh, let's not do that. And then anyways, 6-year journey coming into here now, I got my blood results back for the first time in about a year, and they're like, your insulin's now down to like normal levels, first time ever. And also my hormones are back to like, I'm managing my PCOS to the point where it's just like, your hormones look great. And I was like, it's the same. Yeah. And it's the same thing of when I hit like 90 kilos. I was like, cool, this feels really great. Let's keep this. I was like, all right. That's nice.
Because I think, did you say when you first started with me, was it around 30? You can't remember.
I cannot remember. I
can't remember exactly what it was because it's under 7 mils, however they do it. Under 17, sorry, is molecules, but whatever it is. Under 17 is considered normal. And you were 80. And then you came down. And now, what was it, 9?
I think it was 8 or 9. Like when I'm back in.
So you're not even just in the range. You're like smack bam in the perfect amount of rangeness. I'm
in the rangeness, which has been great. I think I did a lot of work, obviously, from the time before I got diagnosed to before starting with you.
Yeah.
Like it's like got it down, but I wasn't under. I remember I wasn't under. I was still. Well, I was in the range, maybe just a little bit over, but I haven't remembered. Like, I don't think I've ever been in the range of that. So it's been very affirming, to know. And then like what you're saying about like, you know, the time's going to go past regardless. It's just like, if I chose not to really do anything, it's just like, I could be here 6 years later with not managing my PCOS and not feeling great and
diabetic.
Yeah. Could have been, but we're not there. So
no,
that's
we're not ever getting there. Not ever. And I remember when my doctor was saying it too, I was like, only overweight people get type 2 diabetes.
So like, what do you mean?
And I was like, what are you trying to say? And he was like, are you aware of your size pretty much? And I was like, okay, I might have been a bit blindsided, but the fact that my blood is telling me that I'm not healthy, I was like, it's a bit of a wake-up call, you know, and people can say, you know, be confident in who you are and be confident what you look like. Yes, but if you've got underlying health issues and your life choices are impacting that, then sometimes you have to make changes, regardless of what you look like on the outside. But you ultimately, that's probably going to change a little bit to get your insulin down.
Yeah. And then you just feel better. Like my energies, like I wouldn't trade. Like it's funny because it's like I feel like myself like I was 6 years ago. Just again, just much more confident and with more energy and like more confidence to do things. And I think like a desire to want to do things too, like and not write myself off just because I feel like I'm not deserving of like being in that place anymore. So entire mindset shift, entire lifestyle shifts, but all into like the right areas. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. Well, if you've taken anything from this, is that Xantre is a bad bitch, number one.
Oh,
That she is a hard worker, and that if you're starting this journey or you've been working on this journey, it doesn't have to happen overnight. You don't have to get into the gym immediately. Just find something that you love doing and know that the time's going to pass anyway. And you can be confident in who you are at the moment, but you can be a little bit more confident. You can find your real you. I feel like it's like an onion. You've always, like, the way that I feel is like I've always been in there, but sometimes I've just had to take off, the layers, and the layers aren't always fat. It might be like insecurities. It might have been, some trauma. It might have been some things that I need to work on, and I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be an onion. It should be like a flower blossoming.
because when you said onion, I just reminded of that line from Shrek.
Onions. Ogres are like onions. Whatever it is.
Ogres
Parfait,
have layers.
parfait. I want to say thank you for having this chat with me. And
Thank
I'm
you
sure
for
that
having me.
lots of people are going to take lots of stuff from it. We're going to smash the next however months. But I'm going to post this, and I'm also going to do a little posty post. And you can go give her some love because I'm just so proud.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Thanks.
Like, comment, subscribe. Is this the right way to say it?
If you like this,
Link in bio.
link in bio, subscribe, whatnot. I'm always the worst with this. Pat always does this. And I have a favor. I'm going to come sneak in your handbag. I want to come for a tour of your work.
You want to come for a tour of my work?
Yeah, I could be your assistant for the day. I've been thinking about it since our first consult. I've never actually been to Sydney other than the airport, so it's an excuse.
Oh my gosh, you can come coastal walk because I'm sorry, Melbourne, you don't have beaches. You have glorified sand. Like
we import the sand too in some areas.
You have sand. You need a coastal walk, brunch.
I want to go to like Bondi Beach.
Oh, well, I'm not taking you there.
Okay, well, take me somewhere else. I don't know. I just know the stuff from TV.
Oh, yeah, Bondi Rescue.
Yeah. That's going to be me in the corner. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll chat to you later.